Om Shri Sai Ram, offering my most humble and prayerful salutations at the lotus feet of our beloved Bhagwan, Sri Satya Sai Baba. Dear brothers and sisters, it is indeed a great pleasure and blessing of Bhagwan to bring you this episode of his story through the eyes of his voice. And here we have a new topic which we are venturing into, and for that we certainly need his pure grace. So let us start this evening with our prayer, and I request everybody to join me as I recite this. O Lord, take my love and let it flow in fullness of devotion to Thee. O Lord, take my hands and let them work incessantly for Thee. O Lord, take my soul and let it be merged in one with Thee. O Lord, take my mind and thoughts and let them be in tune with Thee. O Lord, take my everything and let me be an instrument to work for Thee. Sai Ram. Om Shri Sai Ram. Welcome to this evening's episode on Ved, the most ancient and the very word of God. And for this exploration on this journey, I have three brothers who are joining me today. And without further ado, let me start introducing them so we can continue with our journey. So let me start off with Brother Shiv Shankar Sai sir. Sai Ram sir.
Sai Ram, Sai Ram.
I'm sure people know you very well, but as a formality, let me do a little of introduction of yours. Professor Shiv Shankar Sai sir is he's a professor of physics, a former dean of science faculties, and he was also a convener of research center and a director of Prashantinilayam campus. In fact, we all know him as the longest serving warden of our campus too. I'm privileged to have learnt Vedas during my college days from him. So sir, thank you so much, and it
Sai
is
Ram,
such a
Sai
joy
Ram.
to have you again. Sai Ram.
Our privilege.
Next, let me introduce Brother Anil Kumar.
Sai Ram.
Brother Sai Ram Anil.
Sai Ram.
Brother Anil joins us from Hyderabad. He is a chief scientific advisor, and I think he's got a long list of qualifications. Brother, most important, I feel, is that Brother Anil Kumar and his parents and his family had the greatest boon of living with God. He has had the privilege of living right in the mandir. Bhagavan had given them a house there, and he has grown up in the very lap of Prashanti Mandir. So, with that, this is a very blessed opportunity for us to get a glimpse of that era and that time from Brother Anil also. He was formerly a student in Prashantinilayam campus from 1979 to 1990, where he did his PUC and Bachelor's in Sciences from Vrindavan. And then he went on to do his PhD from the campus, Prashantinilayam, and he was a faculty of Department of Chemistry in Shatsai Institute of Higher Learning between 91 to 2007. So Brother Anil Kumar right now is joining us from Hyderabad. So thank you, brother, and welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Sai Ram.
And last but not the least, I have Brother Ratish Kumar. Sai Ram, Brother Ratish.
Sai Ram, Sai Ram.
Brother Ratish, as I know him from our college days, a very silent worker and always likes to remain in a very humble way, but like I would say a source of knowledge. He's joining us from Kanpur. Brother Ratish is a professor of mathematics and statistics in IIT Kanpur. He was in the campus from 1980 to 94, where he joined as in 11th grade, and he did his higher secondary, then graduation, and went on to do his post graduation and PhD from Prashantanilayam campus. So, Brother Ratish, welcome. Thank you very much for finding time to join us.
Sai Ram.
I think this topic which we have ventured into today is really profound, and I was really thinking and praying to Swami that only His grace could have brought these beautiful people, and at the right time, Bhagwan sends the right people. So here we have three wonderful people who have been privileged by Bhagwan to go into this section. Let me start. Brother Shiv Shankar Sai, said, if I'm not wrong, did you have interaction or student of respected Kamal Garu?
Yes. In fact, even Dr. Anil Kumar also had the great, rarest of the privileges of learning Rudram and Chamakam from Kamadhani Garu. Yes.
Pusha Suktam also, sir.
Yes. Swami
Wonderful.
was so very.
So I didn't know that Brother Anil also has got a chance to learn from Kamal Garu.
Yes.
Wow. And as we have had a few episodes in which we discussed about Sri Kamal Garu, because we know that he knew all the four Vedas, and somebody mentioned that he could even recite it backwards, and he had memory of all the things. So it was fantastic, and that to learn from him was amazing. So wonderful. So let me start this evening with a very basic question for everybody, as we are discussing how do we understand Ved? Because when we hear about Veda in a normal sense, people always tend to define it as four Vedas and some books. But let us understand the concept first. What is Ved? If you have to explain to a layman like me, how would you do that, sir? Please, anybody. So I can start off with Anil Kumar brother or Shiv Shankar Sai, whosoever you feel like.
I think
Yes.
for this question, we'll start with Vedic chanting.
Yeah.
Okay, sure, sir.
Yeah. Om Ganeshaya Namaha
Saraswati Namaha.
Namaha
Shri
Shri
Guru
Gurubhyo
Namaha.
Namaha.
Harihi Om Iti Brahma Om Iti Idam
Sarvam
Om Iti Tadanu
Shamayanti
Om Iti
Samani
Samani
Gayanti Om
Om Iti
Shokti Shashrani
Santi Om Iti
Yadvaryo
Pratigaram
Garam Preti Gronati
Om Iti
Brahma Prasoti
Om Iti Agni
Hotramanyanati
Om Iti
Omite Brahmana Pravachanna Apnavaditi
Brahmaivopapnoti
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. And you can start.
Sai Ram, brother Abhimanyu, Sai Ram,
Sai Ram, Sai Ram.
Sai Ram to all the listeners. It's really a wonderful opportunity that we have got to ruminate on Swami's message on Vedas and Omkaram with prayerful pranams at the lotus feet of our most beloved Bhagwan, invoking his presence in this discussion and praying for him to guide us. As you asked this question just now, what thought occurred to me as you were saying, what are Vedas? There's a beautiful analogy that Sri Ramakrishna Paramhamsa gives. He says, if you are nearby an ocean or a sea, how do you know the way to the sea? You just listen to the sound, the roar of the sea, right? And you keep going closer and closer towards that sound, and it makes you reach your goal. And Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa says that Vedas and Omkaram are exactly like this. They are the sound which take you to the source of the sound. And what is the source of the sound? The eternal, the unchanging, the akshara that we call as, right? Or the achyuta, the divinity which is always there. So the path to that divinity, the description of what the divinity is, and like Sri Shirdi Baba says, the understanding of creation, creator, and the Jivatma is given by Vedas. And why do we compare? One last point here. Why do we compare the roar of the sea with the Vedas and sea with the eternal Parabrahman? Because the roar of the sea is like the breath of the sea. You can't have the sea without the roar, right? Similarly, the breath of God is Vedas. And the very breath itself, like Swami very often says, the way you see moon is through the moon rays, right? We don't need any other torch to search for moon and see the moon. Similarly, the way we reach or the way we understand the Parabrahman or the actual source from which all of us have come is to follow the Vedas. So therefore, Vedas are so very important for all of us because they lead us to our origin. Sai Ram.
Very nice time. Yes,
Maybe
sir.
I should just
Your
add this one further. As Dr. Anil was mentioning, the breath of God is the Vedas. The breath is connected to our prana. Prana is loosely equated to the breath. So, breath, which is prana, and pranava, Omkaram, are very closely related. Prana and pranava are very closely related. Breath, which is the vayu, the prana vayu, is the most visible and obvious signal of life in the body.
Yeah.
And the source of this prana is, as we chanted, is pranava or Omkar. Maybe I think we should now come to the Omkar.
Okay,
Yeah,
let me
there's
hear
another
Brother
good
Ratish
meaning.
input. Yeah. Sorry, yeah, please carry on.
Just one input here. There's another good meaning for pranava. That it is given as when we split it as per the Mimamsa. The another meaning for pranava is ever new,
Pranava.
ever new. So while it is eternal, the beauty is while it is eternal, it is ever new. Just like the way Bhagwan is. All of us experience this. Bhagwan was Nitya Nutana. That's why every time we see him, we wanted to see him again. Very next moment, we will want to see him again, right? We would have
Even though
seen
he
him a
was
moment
Sanatana.
before. Huh? Nitya
Even though he was
Nutana and
Sanatana, but
Sanatana.
he is Nitya Nutana.
Nitya Nutana. That's what is Pranava also. It is Sanatana, but it's always Nitya Nutana.
Beautiful. Brother Ratish, your
So,
input.
Sai Ram, it's indeed a wonderful blessing to be the part of this divine satsang along with blessed souls like all of you, especially this divine gathering is rejuvenating and it's a great blessing and it definitely recalls a lot of memories and invigorates all of us and Sai Ram, and thanks to Brother Abhimanyu, Brother Fanindra, and Brother Shiv Shankar Sai, and Brother Anil Kumar to be the part of this and invoking the blessings of Bhagwan, let me share my thoughts on the first question raised by Brother Abhimanyu. Is what do you, as the word Veda is mentioned, what is that which comes to your mind? As our brothers have rightly put it, yes, it's very the life breath. Veda is verily God. So God is, G stands for generator, O stands for organizer, D stands for destroyer. That means Vedas is right from your, it is infinite, it is anadi, it has been a part and parcel all through your life. It is a part and parcel of every second. When they say breathing is, uh, God's breath is verily Veda, so it has got swasa and niswasa. So there is something which a life energy is taken and then something is left out. This also, and then as it goes inside us, there is a process which takes place. That is the energy which is received by the body. That's organization principle. So if you see, God is verily Veda, and if we were to take a very simple connotation, which we all know, generator, organizer, and destroyer, that we can verily link to the swasa. Swasa we take it, and it's the carbon dioxide is left out and oxygen is taken in. That's the organization process which supplies the energy, and you leave out the carbon dioxide, destroying the bad things. You take the good things and leave out. So Veda is verily part and parcel of our life. And when we say swasa, definitely it reflects nothing other than God. This is one way that immediately that comes to my mind as our brothers started explaining. So
Beautiful.
yes, I think now I leave the forum to brothers.
Wonderful. Let me, I'm just sharing some questions or thoughts because as a layman, we get this kind of questions that when we think about Ved, and you said it's a word of God and it is the breath of God. So we have one hand, we have a connotation of Ved as the complete knowledge base, an ocean of knowledge. And we also have a claim that every knowledge is in Ved and there is nothing beyond it. So imagine the vastness which we are trying to project. And on the other hand, you all have now given the Veda defined like a source, which is Omkar. So now on one hand, you're saying Omkar is the source, and that source is Ved. So what is the relationship of Omkar and Ved, if you can highlight?
So here I'm just, as you're mentioning, some recollection of Narayana Upanishad. So we all know Pratyaganandam Brahma Purusham Pranavaswarupam Akara Ukara Makara iti Tane Kada Samabharat Tadeta Domiti. So it goes. The Narayana Upanishad, we all know this. So let me also recall this very simple meaning which we can directly link and we can probably elaborate. So Pranava is made up of three syllables, A, U, and Ma. A-U-M, in other words. Pranava is verily the life principle. Pranava is supreme bliss. It is the supreme state of Brahma or Atma. So let us now look at Omkara. One way is to look at that as three syllables, A, U, Ma. As this is as presented by or as referred in Narayana Upanishad, which we all chant, we all know that. So if you take up this Avu Ma, there are a number of things which we can relate. The few things that immediately come to my mind that we can relate to Avu Ma are the following. Akara, Vukara, Makara. So Akara, as we all know, is related to Agni Bija. Ukara is related to Surya Bija and Makara to Chandra Bija. We can elaborate. I'll come back to this a little later. So we can also relate it to the principles like Bhur Bhuvas Suvaha. Akara as it can be related to Bhur and Ukara to Bhuvar and Suva for Makara. So Gayatri
Ratish
Mantra is.
brother, Ratish brother, sorry to interrupt. Just for your clarity, we have audiences from across the country, world. So if you can also give a little bit of English about when you say Agni Bija, what does that mean? So
So
Akara is Agni Bija. What does that mean
wonderful.
for
I
them?
think it's a very nicely, a very pertinent question which we all should understand. Agni Bija, what does it remind? Let's go into a very simple parlance. Agni is a fire, right? So Agni Bija, Akara is Agni Bija, the way it immediately, of course, we will be related to so many other things like Purusha Suktam also we can correlate to Agni Bija, Surya Tattva. Then we can immediately relate Agni Bija to from Purusha. I'll come to that. Prior to that, in a very simple way, Agni, what does Agni do? The fire has got the power of burning. What is that burning? Burning all the bad in us. So Agni Bija Tattva, Omkara, when you were to burn all your bad qualities, when you become pure. So Omkara is supposed to take you finally to the Bindu Tattva. Bindu Tattva is the supreme soul. The first step is burn all the sins, all the things which are unwanted. That could be simply related as Agni Tattva. We can elaborate on it. And second thing, Ukara. Ukara can link it to Chandra Tattva, as I said it. So Surya Tattva. Surya Tattva, we can link it to the eyes, okay, the what we see, the vision, right? So see good, do good, and see no evil, right? That has got tremendous impact on Makara, the mind, Chandra Tattva, right? So Chandrama Manaso Jataha. So if these three things are in unison, your thought, we can relate it to thought, word, and deed directly is Akara, Bukara, Makara. When thought, word, and deed are in unison, you will definitely be towards the Bindu Tattva in as it is in the Omkara. It will lead to the Supreme. So I would request
Ratish, I understand. You are taking us to the Omkar, but before that, I wanted to just to get a clarity about how are we relating this one letter, Akshara Om, to the vast knowledge which is represented by Ved. So if we can hit that, then we can come back and explore Omkar more. So that's what I was trying to go in that step. So how do we understand as a layman when we say Ved is an infinite knowledge and Omkar is the representative? So if anybody can help us to understand that part, like how we understand one word, that Akshara Om.
May I continue to say, or would our brothers take up the question?
Yeah.
So I will maybe quickly add a point here.
Yeah.
Before sure. I think we will have a lot of knowledge to share and lot. So in a very layman's language, I would like to relate Omkara to Varnashrama Dharmas. Because you said in a layman's language, how it is, maybe just one way of looking at it, which I recently heard. So Omkara, if you were to look at it, the very Omkara symbol, the way it is made up of 4 different basic entities. First semicircle, second semicircle, and then we have these two makes the W, if you were to see the winding, okay, Apa. So then we have the Vattu, which we call it as the that again is a semicircle. Then we have Bindu Tattva. So why it is Varnashrama Dharma? It has, let's say our life has 100 years. The first 25 years is Brahmacharya. The second 25 years is Grihastha. Then the next semicircle is you have Vanaprastha. And then the Bindu is the one you relinquish everything and get merged. The whole life which starts, the Omkar is definitely encompassing our entire life, and it may be in a very layman's language is whatever we are living, whether you are at a young age or you're at a middle age or you're at an old age or at an advanced stage, you are really the part of Omkar. Omkar is definitely, you are going through the phase of starting from him and going back to him. So this is a very layman's way. That's what I just, these are the idea, this is the thoughts that as you asked.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me say. Okay, Anil.
So just continuing from what Ratish has just said, why is Omkaram, you were asking, Brother Abhimanyu, why is Omkaram to be considered as a single syllable which has got everything in it, right? So there are various ways.
Rather than why, you say how.
Why and how? We look at both, right? So for why, the first thing that we have to understand is, how did the creation start? Creation started with the way it is told in Anandavalli. So kamayata bahusyam prajayeti shatapotapyata shatapastaptva idagum sarvamasrujata, and it goes on. So kamayata, this is what Swami had told in such wonderful and simple way, that I multiplied myself, I separated myself from myself to love myself. Right? So that desire to love myself, so kamayata, saha kamayata, means there was a desire that arose in the Parabrahman, right? That I want to love myself. And this desire is actually a vibration. See, whenever we have a thought, there's a vibration, right? Thought is a vibration. So desire is a thought. So in fact, so kamayata, kamayata actual translation is a thought. So there was a thought in the Parabrahman. So they immediate, as soon as the Supreme Lord decided or thought, what comes is vibration. What naturally comes out is vibration, what we call as Omkaram. Right? In fact, this is not that it has happened long back, some millions or trillions of years back, there was a big bang and now creation has happened. It is happening day in and day out in every moment of our existence. How are we speaking? How are we converting a non-entity, which is a thought, right, into an entity which is a, a set of neuropeptides and movement of the various muscles so that sound gets produced, right? How is this happening? That means what, every thought is getting converted in our system moment to moment at femtosecond scale, if you have to put it, right, into something which is material, a molecule. And that molecule is doing set of actions, reactions in the body, which make the body function, right? And therefore, this conversion, that means what, every time a thought was there, the vibration is actually leading to creation, right? Same thing has been
Yes.
said in Anandavalli. Atmana akasha sambhutaha akashat vayuhu vayoragnihi agnerapah adbyah prithvi prithivya oshadayah oshadibhyonnam annat purushaha. So that is how the creation has happened. What is this starting? Atmana akasha sambhutaha. From Atma came ether. What is ether? The attribute of ether is Shabda. This is what Swami used to say. Shabda Brahmamayi, Characharamayi, Jyotirmayi, the Ashtaishwarya Swarupa. Swami used to tell, right? That Shabda Brahmamayi is nothing but the attribute Shabda, which is nothing but the vibration which naturally came the minute the Lord thought. Sankalpa Siddhi, the minute Swami had a thought.
So in a way, we can say that
vibration. Yeah.
so everything is an expansion from that one sound.
Correct. So that one, that
manifestation.
vibration, correct. So that vibration we call as Omkaram. That vibration is Omkaram. We need to understand actually here, sound is a very, very, what should I say, a loose translation of Shabda. Shabda is not sound. Omkaram is not just a sound, it's a vibration. We need to understand clearly this difference. Sound requires a medium for transmission. In vacuum, sound doesn't travel, but a vibration continues to be there even in vacuum. Vacuum is not, first of all, vacuum. If you get into that vacuum, there's nothing like a vacuum actually. There's what we call as zero potential, right? If you get into, that's a different discussion. But then, so there's this vibration which is happening constantly in this universe is Omkaram. And this vibration, when we tune into, we hear it in different aspects of this vibration, like akara, ukara, makara. In fact, another way of seeing how is it that one Omkaram has given rise to everything. Everything, just as we discussed in the universe, everything started from Omkaram. Even our own speech and sound mechanism that is there in this human body is completely encompassed with one word, which is Omkaram. If you say ah, it starts from our nabhi and it's a guttural. It starts from throat. So all the gutturals are covered with ah. Oo is from the mouth. So everything to do with the sounds that come using the top of the mouth, the tongue, and the dentals, right? All these things are covered by oo. Is a labial, which comes ma comes because of the
Lips.
lips. Actually, Omkaram, as per Mandukya Upanishad, is not just consisting of a, u, and ma, but there is an matra. That ma gets joined up with a small anuswara, and that anuswara leads us to stillness, right? So this anuswara is also equally important. In fact, Mandukya Upanishad says the akara, ukara, makara are the waking, dream, and deep sleep state, and the anuswara represents the self, which is there in all these three states. So one Omkara is actually from this, when we see it from the body itself, we see that the whole instrument that we use, all the instruments that we use for producing a speech, vak, right, is actually there in one Omkaram. Not only that, the final sound, that vibration that comes out, is there inside and outside. If we really say, we feel it inside, we feel it outside. So where is that final word? So after saying ah, oo, and ma, we actually get merged into the sound, which is all over, right? So that
We
is
will
Omkara.
continue, but let me hear
Yeah,
from Shiv Shankar Sai sir first, and
and
then we'll continue further.
yeah.
Yes, Sai sir.
As brothers were mentioning, that Omkara consists of that Avuma. Now, we use what's called standards or authority for proving something. What the pramanas? The Shabda Pramana for us is the Vedas. In our Indian culture, if you want to know whether a particular act is correct or not correct, we refer to this one and say, yes, this is allowed in Vedas, and therefore we do that. Vedas are taken as a pramana or the authority. So, in fact, in Bhagwan Sri Krishna mentions in the Gita 7th chapter,
Yeah.
Aham Pranavaha Sarva Vedeshu. Among all the Vedas, he is the Pranava or the Omkara. So the Lord himself has declared he is the Omkara Swarupa. We've chanted the first mantram, that itself is an explanation for the Omkara. But we have further qualified it by saying that even in our Bhagavad Gita, which is more popular than other texts, also mentions, Bhagavan Sri Krishna mentions in his 7th chapter. Not
Sir,
only that,
just
so
an
many other
addition,
texts.
sir, in
Yes.
even chapter 9 and chapter 10, again,
Chapter
Lord
10 also
says
they
that he is
mention. Yes,
Omkaram. It's not once that
absolutely.
Lord Krishna says that he is Omkaram in Bhagavad Gita. He refers to it in 3 chapters.
Three
Same
chapters.
statement, almost similar statement.
And even, not only in Bhagavad Gita, in so many texts, the Lord actually reiterates that he is verily the Omkara Swarupa. That, for example, Patanjali Yoga Sutra, also it is mentioned, Tasya Vachakaha Pranavaha. The sound that denotes the God is essentially Pranava. The one which explains God is Pranava. So that's why it's called Pranava Swarupa. So from all this one, we know that Vedas are Pranava and Pranavas are Veda. They can be synonymously used. Now we are trying to understand how it is derived and so on. Yes.
Yep.
Excellent. So let me flash you this picture.
Yeah.
And if you look at this Om symbolism, now what I understand from this discussion so far is that, the A, U, and Mo, they are the manifested part of the creation as they expand, and the Bindu is
Is the
that
self.
self part. So
All the
can we have little
primordial self.
elaboration on it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So
can we have
here,
little elaboration on that? Yes.
sure. So here, if you see, the lower part of the akaram is the wakeful or the jagrat state, right? Which represents the lower part of the akaram. The upper part of the akaram represents the deep sleep state. The side part represents the taijasa or the dream state, and the infinity or the turiya is the bindu. In fact, if just now we discussed where is see, if you want to really realize or understand or see Parabrahman, right, we have to, as long as there's a vibration, we don't see the source behind. Like Swami gives a very often example, as long as the reels keep projecting images on the screen, we don't see the screen. Or another analogy which I read in another book, Eckhart Tolle's book, where he says the thoughts have to be first slowed down. Why? It's like each thought, if you imagine it to be a car with a number plate. If there's tremendous traffic going, you can't see any number, you can't identify which car it is, nor can you identify the number plate. But if you slow down the movement of the cars, if you slow down, reduce the amount of traffic, you will start identifying each car, you will start identifying even the number plate. And if you further reduce it, you will actually see the road. So similarly, as long as there's vibration, we can't see the Parabrahman. So that Bindu actually takes us to stillness. Here I would like to recall one small experience which because of the infinite mercy of Bhagwan that I have had. It happened,
Sure.
this happened during my research time. I used to be living in Mandir, fortunately. My father was staying in East Prashanti, so to look after my father, Swami had permitted me to live in Mandir itself. So I used to be spending time with father, and father was a avid he was a, what should I say, a student of Vedas and Upanishads. And Bhagwan also used to have lots of these discussions with him, which we are fortunate to listen to sometimes. So it's so and he used to ruminate a lot about all these things. He used to be having discussions with Kuppa Bairagi Shastri Garu. And so his life he was spending in Patti more on the Vedas, Upanishads, and his thoughts were all that. In fact, he used to rarely talk to us about what our means, what are we doing, whether we are doing MSc chemistry or physics. Also, he didn't know. He didn't bother to know. In fact, he just didn't bother. So he was that type, fully into Vedanta and Swami. That's all. Those were his two thoughts. And it's so he used to have a lot of these. The reason I gave this background is to tell you all why this wonderful. Later on, I realized why this wonderful opportunity was given to me, because one day suddenly Swami called me in the evening for taking the Vibhuti basket. While Swami had to give Vibhuti to some of the devotees, Swami used to ask one of the students to from the portico to carry the Vibhuti
Carry the
basket.
basket.
Right? So I did that, and Swami finished giving Vibhutis, Pad Namaskar. Swami went back inside, and I also followed Bhagwan into the interview room to keep the basket back in its place. So just as I kept that and I knelt down to take Namaskar, it just so happened that outside a bhajan started and Omkaram started. Then Swami looked at me after I took Namaskar. Swami looked at me and said, "Do you know where is Parabrahma? Parabrahma ekkaduntundho telusa?" This is a question for a PhD student. I didn't know what Swami was referring to. I didn't know the difference between Brahma, Parabrahma. See, all these are actually Vedantic terms. So I was just looking at Bhagwan, and Swami said, the silence between two Omkaram is the place where you can find Parabrahma.
Wow. Wow.
So then, of course, it just because whatever used to happen in the evening darshan time, I used to go back and while sitting with father in the night, I used to tell him whatever happened that day in the portico and what all Swami said. So this I said. Then he was almost in tears. He said, I was just thinking of this. I was trying to understand, and this is the idea that I got. Maybe between the vibrations, if we can still the vibrations, we'll be able to reach our deep self within. So he was in his own pursuit of his spiritual journey, and Bhagwan actually blessed me with this to convey it to him. So then, but then now I realized, when I was after that, I started talking to him, and then I started reading. I realized that this bindu is actually equally important. That's why Swami is, in fact, in one of the discourse, Swami chanted this Omkaram so beautifully, so beautifully. I would we should all continuously listen to it. So Swami said it has to be the way. How should we chant Omkaram? It has to be like the way aeroplane comes
I
from far.
hope we have the audio at least of that. Do we have
I
it
think by
anywhere?
next
I
time
don't
we
know.
should get it.
We should find that.
I tried to search. I
But
couldn't.
brother Anil, at the
Yeah.
same word, if you don't mind, if you can recite it the way you understood, and
We may not
it'll
be
be
that good,
nice.
but then okay. I'll first
People have.
explain what Swami said.
I've
I'll
already
first
got a
explain.
question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll first explain the what Swami said. In fact, Swami gave the same analogy. It should be like an aeroplane. The way you hear the sound of an aeroplane when it comes from far, crosses you, and then moves on. So the sound comes from far away. It suddenly becomes loud enough, and then again slowly dies down into finally that stillness. That stillness is what represents the bindu,
Bindu.
right? So you have to move from akara, ukara, makara into that stillness tattva, right? So that is what even Mandukya Upanishad says. So it's something like so each time you have to feel that stillness and then start the next omkar. Then we are actually touching, we are we are going in between the vibration. It's not so easy because Vishnu Suktam also says Lord Vishnu moves at tremendous speed. Means the vibrations are at such high speed, to capture something in between those vibrations is not easy. Certainly it needs a lot of practice, but I think Omkaram helps us to reach that stillness. Mind becomes naturally still as we try to. I means whenever you try to do that, we will feel that mind starts becoming still slowly. So that we need to give that pause and then start another om. It's beautiful. So that's what Sami mentioned, and so the vibration therefore is the creation, and because creation is all, the whole knowledge of creation is everywhere, right? So everything has come finally from Omkaram, is in Omkaram, continues to be in Omkaram.
Shiv Shankar Sai sir, what I hear from Brother Anil is very interesting. It seems to be like you have to go into this mess of creation to get out of it. You need that loudness to get into the silence. So, isn't that funny kind of a scenario? Like you have to go into that Omkar to enjoy and experience the stillness.
Um, well,
Shall I
you,
can I
yes,
respond
please.
to this?
Yes,
So,
please.
No, no. See, each one of us actually deep within are Bhagwan only, no? We also decided to separate ourselves from ourselves to love ourselves. We should translate
I
what
don't know
Bhagwan.
that. I don't know
That's
that
what
part.
it is. Finally, it is just that it's not that there's no choice. We have it is out of, we are all part of him, right? In fact, Purusha Suktam is all about that. We are part of him.
So I would like to add some very simple parlance. I think wonderfully explained by brother Anil, and very nice question by brother Abhi. So here I think in the stillness when it is being said, I'm just coming down to very mundane things. Excuse me for that. So as I was talking about to observe, see, fundamentally as brother Anil explained, to get in tune, to get in the frequency and resonance with it. So, in a very simple parlance, we can say that if you want to observe a truth, let's come back to the very regular academic stuff. So, if you want to observe a truth, we are in the Alarian world. So, there are some coordinate systems which come into the mind. Okay. To see the truth, either you be fixed. You fixed means you're going to be fixed and you're not, you're going to be very still. And you see the things moving. That's the Alerian coordinate system. Either you remain still or you have the capacity to move as fast or as slow as what is being. That's the Lagrangian system. So if you follow the Alerian system or the
I
Lagrangian
like
system, you will
that.
be able to get the truth out. So either you, if you want to be fast, like in the aeroplane, you sit in the plane, don't follow the plane, you cannot keep the pace, just sit in it, become one with it. Then you will be able to see what it means. Or you just be still and then just seeing what speed it is going. As we see that it's coming at this speed and going, if you are very still, you will be able to gauge its speed and you will be able to. That means either be in the Alerian system or be in the Lagrange system, then you can explain the physical world.
Lovely.
So this
I
is
think I like
one way
that.
what brother, as brother Anil was putting that stillness. So that immediately meant, what is stillness? Okay, this is something which we require for our day-to-day
I
life.
think
If
yes.
we are not still, we will not be able to get anything. If you want to hit a sixer or you want to be an excellent batsman, you need to have the knack of being one with the bowlers bowling. Or if you want to excel in dribbling in hockey or this, you need to have that. You have to have that frequency. Either you be in the Lagrangian or be in the Alerian, you will be one with the game. Whether it's a game of hockey, whether it's a game of
Yeah.
football, whether it's a game.
Yeah.
So when you, so we see that that's verily divine energy. So that's why we see whether he's a sportsman, whether he's a gymnasian, whether he's a scientist, all of them are, or whether he's a singer, we see all of them coming to Bhagavan and Bhagavan equally blessing everyone. We also seen Subramanya Shastri Garu, Gandikor Subramanya Shastri Garu and Kamavadani Garu being blessed and placed. Same was also the case with Sunil Gavaskar, which we have seen several times. He has visited our hostel. I remember the episode that when Sunil Gavaskar came to Parthi, Swami brought him once to the hostel. It was the way the Swami was, he was actually playing cricket with him when he brought him to the hostel. He said, I brought the Sunil Gavaskar. So we were all there. I think we all were the students, maybe in my second PU or not. It was literally moving as if he is playing cricket with Sunil Gavaskar. So what I wanted to say is, so if you excel, if you are in Lagrangian system or Alerian system, you are one with that, then you will be able to get into that between the two Omkars. If you want to come with it, you have to be verily Omkar. So if you have to be very Omkar, you get fine-tuned into that frequency. This is what immediate thoughts that Swami has probably made me say.
Absolutely fantastic.
Absolutely. Just to add to this,
You spoke like a professor of
yeah,
mathematics.
yeah. Just to add to this,
No,
Brother
not me.
Ratish.
Swami is talking through all of us. Definitely
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
We will not
Yeah.
speak whatever things that we have seen. So all Swami is make us speak. That's what I definitely
Fantastic.
all of you accept. Right.
Yes.
Sai Ram,
Just
brother
to add
Anil
to
was
this,
speaking.
what Swami is to say, there are two ways to release ourselves from the chain. One is you become so small that the chain falls off, or you become so big that the chain snaps. Right?
Great, sir.
So either you say you are the divine, or you say I am your dasoham, or either soham or dasoham.
Beautiful. Shiv Shankar Sai, sir. Sorry, we
Yeah.
couldn't hear your point.
No, that's absolutely fine. Um, Brother Ratish has given the theoretical aspect of it, the theoretical foundation and sound foundation he has given it, how one can view it either in the Lagrangian system or another system. I'll give you the practical approach of that. Now, the Omkaram is used for curing people.
Yeah.
There is a technique called MSRT, Mind Sound Resonance Technique, which is developed by the Yoga University, S. Vyasa, which is there in Bangalore. They do the healing of many, many diseases through the Omkar chanting. They have a full-fledged research in many fields, yoga and then Vedas and this sort of based on our Indian tradition and culture. This particular technique called MSRT, Mind Sound Resonance Technique, involves actually synchronizing the body, mind, and breath in one particular pattern while chanting Omkar. Both Ahat, that is the heard sound of Omkar, and Anahat, that is not without the sound, inaudible Omkar. This is also included in this particular technique. So now it is no longer only in in our own scriptures, which is revered, which is worshipped, which is learnt, but it is actually put down into practical aspects for the benefit of humanity and for all of them. It is very, very interesting to note that these principles, which are enunciated in our Vedic culture, are also being used for therapeutic values.
So just to add here,
Beautiful.
the Anahat Shabda, why is it of such great relevance? This is just a thought which is Bhagwan's grace, which is just, I'm just trying to connect the dots. See, Anahat Shabda, if you see, is also close enough to Anahata Chakra, right? Anahata Chakra
Heart
is
chakra.
the heart chakra. And the endocrine gland which is connected to that heart chakra is thymus. And the role of thymus is in the production of all the immune related system. The whole immune system is actually controlled and even developed in the early childhood by the thymus gland, right? So what the anahata chakra actually does is it actually integrates the whole body. So that is why heart is love, we say. The whole body functions in. Swami gives very often this example. What is the way you do communication? I remember Swami was speaking to MBA boys and said, how do you describe, because they have business communication as a subject, right? So Swami said, what is communication? Communication is understanding. And Swami gave an example, when you are walking down the road and you see thorn, right? The eye immediately, instantly tells the leg to move away. That is communication. That is because there is huge,
And
intense
by chance it
understanding.
gets pricked.
Ah, by chance it gets pricked, the eye cries, right? That is because immediate
Hand
there
goes
is
up quickly.
understanding and there is that love, connect of deep love between the all the organs of the system. And this connect happens to thymus glands. And thymus gland stands for Anahata Chakra. And Anahata Chakra, same word is being used for Anahata sound. So maybe it is when we internalize the Omkaram, it is this, I think that is how the curing also happens, because many, in fact, thymus gland, one of the major problem with thymus gland is it is very large when an individual is small. It actually is one of the largest endocrine gland when a baby is born. As the baby ages, as we reach our early adulthood, not adulthood, the young age, teens, right? The size starts diminishing of thymus. If you are able to maintain, in fact, there's a lot of research that's going on to regenerate this thymus to its original size, or if you are able to maintain the thymus glands size intact throughout the growth of the
Lifespan.
person, we can even become, longevity can be extended. It can be a healthy long life, right? So
So
anahata,
Omkar can so
so
Omkar can help you do that?
definitely it must be that. I'm just connecting the dots, right? So anahata, when we internalize the omkaram, I think the thymus gland might, I think we should do some research to see this connect, if there is a regeneration of thymus gland or better functioning of thymus gland by proper omkaram. If it is there,
Since
it
we
will be
have
there, very
since we
certain.
have mentioned since you have mentioned about the chakras, I would for the benefit of everybody, it will be nice to see the Omkar and the connection of Omkar with our seven chakras. So if you all can elaborate on that, it will be lovely. You know, maybe
Yeah.
this picture can give you some kind of a
So
thought.
actually, for this, we need to first start with what the Ratish was saying, the Bhur, Bhuvaha, and Suvaha, right? So, like Swami translates Bhur, Bhuvaha, Suvaha into materialization, vibration, and radiation. Suvaha is the radiation, Bhuvaha is the vibration, and then we have the materialization, which is the body. In fact, in all present day holistic medicine or hypnotherapy, its body is the treatment is never to body alone, because most of the diseases, in fact, all of the diseases are psychosomatic. And if we go further, it's not just psychosomatic, but even involvement of the soul. So it is the radiation. From the radiation comes the vibration. Vibration is the flow of energy from, there's a constant flow of energy from the universal to the body system. And this flow of energy gets percolated into various organs of the body. And that energy in turn runs the gross physical body. So these are the three levels, and this energy system has been talked of in various ancient medical systems. Chinese speak about it as energy meridians, and the whole of acupressure and related sciences, medical healing sciences, are all related to these energy meridians, right? We have 72,000 energy meridians running, and in Indian system it's talked of as the chakras. The chakras form the powerhouse of the energy, and each of these chakras are in turn connected to the most vital endocrine system, which in turn runs the whole body, right? So to quickly go through, the Sahasrara is connected to the pineal gland. The pineal gland is the one which is responsible for the production of melatonin, we say. Means the whole of sleep cycle, resting of the system happens through pineal gland. In fact, the pineal, hypothalamus, and pituitary is the Agnya chakra. These three literally control the rest of the body. Means they are like, I would put it as, they are like the CEO of the body. The CEO of the body are the pineal, hypothalamus, and the pituitary. The pituitary functions in close proximity and takes guidance from pineal. Pineal system is the, it controls the whole circadian rhythms, the whole biological clock, which makes the body function, is controlled by the pineal. The pituitary then gives the commands, translates that into commands for the rest of the endocrine system, starting from the throat, which is where we have thyroid. Thyroid gland is responsible for the energy management of energy, the the utilization of energy in the whole of the body. See, if I have to simplify this, the whole biological system functions mainly on two aspects, especially the animal and the human biological system. One is utilization of energy, and the storage of energy. That means absorption of energy, utilization of energy is one aspect. The other aspect is communication, internal and external. This is what body requires to ensure that it is healthy, because we are living in an environment. Environment affects the health, because body is an open system, thermodynamic system, if we see, right? So therefore, it has to be in constant homeostasis. So there is an equilibrium that the body has to maintain with the environment, changing environment. So this happens because of the communication that it has with the external. So the energy is managed by the thyroid and the adrenal. Adrenal we have at the swadhisthana, right? Chakra controls the adrenal, and the Agnya controls, not the Agnya, the Vishuddha controls the thyroid. So these two take care of the energy absorption and energy utilization. Then we have the Anahata, which is the chakra thymus, what we just now discussed. And then the solar plexus, which is where we have the pancreas, right? The again energy utilization. Anahata takes care of the communication part. And then we have the Mooladhara, which is what takes care of all the gonads, or it takes care of the structure of the body. The Mooladhara is really Mooladhara because it connects and stabilizes the whole body vis-a-vis the earth system, and it actually gives the structure to the body. So the Mooladhara gives the structure. The rest of the four chakras take care of the energy and communication, and these three manage as to how the body should be run. The control is from the pineal and the pituitary. So the chakras, to go back again quickly, the Sahasrara is the pineal, the Agnya chakra is the thyroid, the pituitary, then the Vishuddha is the thyroid, the Anahata is the
Heart.
thymus, the solar plexus is that is Manipura, we say, is the pancreas. This is there is in different systems they say differently. Some say this is adrenal also. Then Swadhisthana is adrenal or pancreas. Then Mooladhara is the gonads. So this is how the endocrine system is actually directly connected with the chakras, and blockage of any of these chakras will lead to malfunctioning of that endocrine system, and that in turn will lead to a disease state in the body. So the
So,
treatment many times is through this energy medicine, we say, wherein sound healing, the electromagnetic radiation is given, color, aromatherapy, all these things take care of the vibration part of the body. That is the energy system of the body.
so if I'm understanding it correct, chanting Omkar creates frequency which impacts these chakras
Yes.
in a very layman language. Am I
Yes.
making some sense?
Correct.
Okay.
In fact, they're called
So,
as solfeggio frequencies.
what is this
These
called?
frequencies, solfeggio, Solfeggio, solfeggio
Okay.
frequencies, which are the ones which affect the various chakras. And Omkaram is about 432 hertz, solfeggio frequency.
That's
432
interesting.
hertz. I believe that Swami used to sing in that frequency. That's why he was
Yeah.
always off the harmonium because the
Okay.
frequency he sang was always 432. So I learned that part. It was very fascinating to know about that truth.
Omkaram is actually the 432 hertz frequency it produces. And that, in fact, if you see the solfeggio, it directly affects the thymus, the Anahata
Okay.
chakra,
So wonderful.
predominantly. Yeah.
Wonderful explanation, Brother Anil. As you were mentioning, just as Brother Abhi and you were discussing about how we get the Omkar is full of vibration, and every atom in the body is vibrating with the Omkar and rejuvenating, and the God's energy is getting materialized within us. I was just reminded a little more, probably if we were to look at again, go back to the layman's language. Very simple what we study in the schools, and maybe we all hear a lot of stories probably. So we when we talk about the human system, of course, I very nicely explained in terms of chakras. For you, finally, it comes to Sahasrara. And why is it that chanting of Omkar has got awakening, finally touching the Sahasrara, giving so much of energy filled with vibration? So, in a very simple way, that we were to look at this, there is one scientific evidence that there are 14,000 centers in the brain, of which a normal human being, when he goes through the education process and with his interactions with various learnings and all his skills, it's just only 208 of these centers are only activated by the regular process. So of that amounts to something like 2% of the total. So by chanting Omkar, you will be able to, by if you're getting more and more tuned to it, you will be able to go as far as possible. That's what probably the people have experienced as they keep chanting Omkar, as you rightly, Brother Shiv Shankar Sai was mentioning how it is a aushadhi. Omkar chanting is an aushadhi. Finally, we know that there are so many instances where medical sciences have failed, but a person with its inherent prayers and power, the divine energy cures him. He doesn't. There are several instances, several miracles we have heard about. But why is it so? It is an innate power which you get fine tuned to. Maybe I say that out of 14,000 centers of power which is there within you as has been identified, maybe much more. Only normal human beings, even the little scientific or elevate educated people may not be using more than 2% of that, but highly skillful people. By chanting Omkar, you will be able to activate yourself and you will be able to rise your levels to much greater heights. And there are certain, on this particular aspect. So, how do you actually measure this? There is something known as, if not very close to it, there is something known as fMRI, functional MRI. So, where the activities in the brain, if they say move your hand, move your eyes, move your start talking, they start recording which part of your head is getting activated. So they have the way to capture the signals. FMRI is fMRI, functional MRI.
Magnetic
So
resonance.
magnetic resonance imaging. That's the essentially it does it. It does it. Probably they are yet to go one step further, that you will be able to touch upon all these things. So we will be, the people are marching ahead, but even with the functional MRI, and there are also brain signal tracking. For example, there is a completely blocked in stage. So In that stage, a person is all his motor systems are failed. But then you are not able to talk, you are not able to move your eyelids, but your brain is still functional. So you'll be able, people have come to the extent of capturing the signals. Why am I saying this is, people have experimented with Omkar. If a person is chanting Omkar, does it do any kind of variation in the signal process that is received in the brain? Yes, there is an evidence. At least this particular recording of 14,000 centers, which let's say there are even more, only 2% is active, and more percentage of activity at least is noticed. So 14,000 could be a number that we could gauge it. It could be much more because it's an infinite power. So that we could see is only 14,000 as has been identified. So chanting Omkar has definitely activated and seen more than 2% activity. There are scientific evidences in a paper on it. And there are also pramanas, the documents, which probably somebody wants it, it could also be shared. Here I would like to also share an experiment conducted, as you were saying, as Brother Shiv Shankar Sai was mentioning, that it is a medicine, a Divya Aushadha, which has been gifted to the humanity from ancient times. They did not have any Aushadhis as we know. But chanting Omkara, they kept people were alive for a long time, they were energetic. How did this happen? Let's take a simple experiment. People who go to various meditation, there is one such experiment which was conducted, and in one of the meditation sessions where I heard this episode. So the teacher says that by chanting Omkara, it helps you, it cures you. It cures your headache, it cures your other problems. One person, this is a recorded episode, a person had severe sinusitis and headache because of that. And it is the only thing the teacher, the message of teacher was heard by this participant. What the participant did is, it believed it. 100% faith is the first step. That had a faith was the first step. The confidence that this can cure, that this is the divine energy, is the very first step that this participant had. This participant goes back, and when it was a severe headache, puts the hand in the frontal region where it's severely aching, chanted Omkar loudly for 5 minutes. And the participant found a sense of relief. Continued it for the next 15 days, and he was reported completely free from it, and it did not come back to him for a very long time. And this experiment was repeated by several people, and they found beneficial. So probably one could see, first thing is faith. Faith in that, if you do not have it, go there and keep chanting, it won't happen. Faith is the fundamental thing. You have that faith, and then you do it. You can do it. Will definitely, you will be in sync with the divine energy. To be in sync with divine energy, first step is self-confidence. That confidence should be there, and the faith should be there. So faith in the divine energy will definitely lead you to that. And this is an experiment, as both the brothers were saying. This is something, these thoughts flashback. So I just sharing with you.
Sure. Actually, this is a science which even scientists accept, that even medicine, they need faith.
Sound healing, they say, right?
Right.
Sound healing is very well established now.
So the music is very well known to cure.
Shiv Shankar Sai sir, here is a slide which talks about the sound and the connection of sound with chakras.
Right.
And as we know now, the Omkar is the beginning of the sound. And here is your... So any thoughts on this slide?
Okay.
Or anything else?
Related to this.
The Sapta Swaras with the Sapta Chakras. That is the correlation here. Sari, Gama, Pada, Ni.
Yeah, if I'm correct, that 432 stands for that Makara. I think that.
Yeah, Makara. Yes, sir.
That it comes to the Makara.
Yes, Makara.
Maybe I'll just give the same thing, connected one. Just as Brother Ratish was saying about the 1400 plus centers, and then Brother Anil was telling about the chakras and how they are controlled. The endocrine system is controlled, which for the benefit of this body. The yoga, science of yoga, our ancient culture, says that there are 72,000 nadi system in our body. 72,000 nadis, and these nadis are not the nerve system which we have. They are also, as Brother Anil pointed out, the channels through which the energy flows, the prana energy, the energy in the body flows through these nadi system. They originate in the Kandasthana, which is the navel, just below our navel, the navel button, the belly button, which we have, all of us have, just before below that. And these chakras, which you have shown, are the places where these nadi system actually cross each other. So, the as brother was mentioning, all the diseases are psychosomatic in nature. In fact, they say the disease is only the disease comes only when this life force or the prana gets obstructed in each of these chakras are the nadi centers. So if the disease, I mean, this life flow is affected or obstructed, it projects itself in the form of a disease. So it all starts with the mind, manomaya kosha. This is called
Yes.
adija vyadi, they call it. And then that's why always Swami says, that keep, once you have the mind completely in control, you will not get any diseases, because your mind is always focused to whatever is supposed to be done. You live in the present. So the disease which starts with manomaya kosha, if it is not controlled, it shows, it percolates to the pranamaya kosha, which is just below that. We know we are, Swami always keeps telling, and then Vedas, talk very extensively, that Upanishad and Brugvali, etc. These 5 koshas, pancha kosha, annamaya kosha, pranamaya kosha, manomaya kosha, vijnanamaya kosha, and anandamaya kosha. This, the disease, if it is not controlled, comes to pranamaya kosha, your breath gets affected. And if it is not even that's why pranayama is used even to control the breath. Prana ayama, controlling of the breath, is a pranayama. You can actually control the diseases even through pranayama. Now they are showing that the disease is also controlled by through Omkar chanting, through your the pranayama and such other techniques. And if it is not controlled, it comes down to the manomaya kosha and expresses itself in the form of a disease. So for all of them, this Omkar chanting, which we are now discussing, it's all, everything is related. So this nadi system, which is the flow of energy in our body, can be purified through this Omkar chanting. That's what it is mentioned in our shastras. This
So
mantra,
we can unblock our blocked arteries through chanting Omkar.
yes,
Definitely. See
eventually, yes.
what
But
I'm
brother,
then
sure.
it's a regular chanting, and
yeah,
with faith, as brother pointed out.
And
no,
correctly.
like
Correct.
what sir was saying, the chant, the whole blockage. See, as we discussed just now, the pineal and the pituitary are the controlling endocrine systems, right? So they, if they get disrupted, they are directly connected to the mind. So the manomaya kosha, there is a disease which begins there, right? Reflected on these two endocrine systems, and they in turn disrupt the whole rest of the functioning of the body, right? So if there is a blockage in any of these chakras, which is what is the blockage or the flow of energy, right? So what blocks the flow of energy in a very easy way, if you have to remember, energy in motion is emotion. So if you become more and more emotional, right, and if you are not stable emotionally, it leads to the disruption in the flow of energy, and that disruption is seen as blockages. In fact, one nice connect, this is just another, again I'm just connecting dots, Bhagwan's grace. This is just that I just remembered, in Ayurveda there is a statement, stotramayam hi shariram. Shrota, it is called as. Shrota is a Ayurvedic concept. Shrota means it is the channels in the body which make the flow of whether it is energy, whether it is the mala, the doshas, the dhatu, the agni, all the aspects which run the body as per Ayurveda, all of them flow through what they term as shrotas. Now you just see the correlation. Shrota, the root word, is same as Shravanam. And in our
Shruti.
Bhakti Marga, it starts with Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, right? So Shravanam. So listening is therefore so very important. Sound is so important.
And Veda is
Shabda,
Shruti.
Veda is Shruti.
Veda is Shruti.
Shabda, Shruti, Shrota, Shravanam, all are connected, right? In fact, Shruti, Shrota, and Shravanam, same root word. Why is it that in Ayurveda they use the word Shrotas for these channels? So obviously, the rishis wanted to convey that these get affected by sound, right?
Wow.
And therefore, the whole of Ayurveda is directly telling us the way to cure and way to clear all the dhatus, means make the body function properly, is to ensuring that the shrotas are clean and effective. And the way to make them effective is through shruti or shravana,
Excellent.
right?
I want to, before I move to the next topic, I wanted to just bring you back. You have mentioned about this radiation, vibration, and creation. In fact,
Materialization.
Creation and
creation
materialization.
is materialization, yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, this statement, I was maybe in my 11th or 12th, Professor Abul Kalam, who was ex-president of country, then he was the scientific advisor to the government of India. And Bhagwan had called him with his assistant, and somehow he pulled me also in, and I was like an odd man out. But probably today, for that today, maybe that experience happened. And in some discussion between them, Swami just told him while stepping inside his room, he said, Abul, radiation, vibration, creation. And he smiled and went. And Mr. Kalam got really, like a childlike excitement. And he said, give me pen, give me paper. So as a student, I had a pen with me, so I just gave him the pen, but he had no paper. So he took out his, canteen coupon, and behind that he wrote it very fast. He scribbled as if he didn't want to forget it. And I had heard this statement a couple of times from Swami, anyways, so it didn't hit anything radiation, vibration, creation. And he wrote, and then he just sighed a very relief, and a smile on his face. He said, Swami has given me the secret of creation. I shall do research on it. And I couldn't figure out at that moment like why he was so excited and what secret Swami gave, because he keeps telling this to us so many times. But today, when I'm hearing you all say that, it really beautifully brings the point together. What a caliber of Abul Kalam. He's not an ordinary soul. The way he lived and the knowledge he had, him getting excited for this statement, and we all are using this statement so beautifully and casually today. So I would like you to just, take us through this quick explanation of how do we look at the vibration as Omkar. Is Omkar radiation? Is Omkar vibration? Or is it all together?
Like we discussed, this is just uh, the thoughts that Bhagwan is guiding. Like we discussed, we said what Bhagwan had said, that I separated myself from myself to love myself, right? So that radiation is the supreme Parabrahma. The vibration is the Omkaram, right? So the immediate follow up that comes from, see, that is where the creation started. Creation, in fact, Om contains in itself, if we rewrite the Om, it is Uma, right? Om contains, if you A, U, and Ma, if you write it in a different way, it is Uma. Uma stands for mother, right? The aspect of Shakti, the aspect of creation.
Creation.
So Omkaram is the origin of creation, which is the vibration. So still the supreme energy, when it decided, when there was a thought in it, creation arose, and that very moment vibration came. So constantly radiation is there. Radiation is the supreme energy, which is Bhagwan, and from there comes the vibration, and therefore vibration in my uh, thinking is the Omkaram, right? And then the material, the creation follows from that Omkaram.
Happens. Sai sir, what is your take?
So
Right.
it's very nicely explained by Brother
Sure, Ratish
Anil.
brother. Huh?
So this immediately reminded me of what I told in the beginning. That so we can correlate this radiation, vibration, and materialization to Icha Shakti, Meda Shakti, and Kriya Shakti, right? And also the thought, word, and deed. So when they are in unison, so there are the three Shaktis. It can only happen Icha Shakti, Meda Shakti, and Kriya Shakti can happen only when Icha is followed by Meda Shakti, and then it is transformed to Kriya Shakti. The unison and thought, word, and deed, it is verily present. So the creation is verily present in Icha Shakti, Meda Shakti, and also Kriya Shakti. And Kriya Shakti is present in one Shakti is present in all. That's a unison in all. So that is verily in every part of our living. If you want to breathe, you definitely need to have all these Shaktis with you in unison, which we do not realize. These are all in unison. That's why we are existing. Every Shakti that whether we talk, whether we do.
One point
Ratish
here.
brother, we would like to translate these three Shaktis in English first for everybody's benefit, just to help. Otherwise, people get lost. So,
Icha Shakti, willpower.
Icha Shakti is the power of
Willpower.
will.
Well,
Kriya Shakti is the power of action, and
Jnana Shakti.
Medha
Ichha
Shakti,
Jnana Shakti or
Jnana Shakti.
Jnana Shakti is the
Meda
power,
Shakti, Jnana
knowledge.
Shakti.
The power of
Power of
knowledge.
knowledge.
simply we can say the thought, word, and
Just
deed.
to,
We put it
just
in a
to
very
give
simple
you one,
language.
yeah, just to simplify this,
Right.
in the morning, as soon as we get up, in Balvikas we are taught, right? I'm sure all Sai devotees will be doing it. What is the prayer we do? Karagre vasate Lakshmi, Karamadhye Saraswati, Karamule sthite Gauri, Prabhate Karadarshanam. And if you really see, the three goddesses, right, mother, forms of mother, stand for Icha, Gnana, and Kriya. Kriya is Mother Lakshmi, Icha is Mother Durga, and Gnana is Mother Saraswati. And if you see why this beautiful, this simple poem contains the whole concept, what Brother Ratish was saying is the unison. See, your hand movement is the one which is the Icha. You, anything you want to do, the hand has to move. So Icha Shakti is Karamule Sthite Gauri. So Gauri is at the Karamula, because that is how the hand first has to move, right? Then what is the one which finally does the action? The Kriya Shakti, Karagre Vasate Lakshmi, the Kriya Shakti. And what controls how which finger has to move, that knowledge of which finger should go with which finger, is Karamadhye Saraswati, Jnana Shakti. So how to do the action is given by the controlling of the fingers, right? Which is done by Saraswati, who is residing there. The Karagre is the Lakshmi, who is the one who is actually doing the action. And the Icha to actually do it is translated by actual movement of the hand. That is why Karamule Sthite Gauri. So in that
So
very
what
simple poem, our
Brother
ancients,
Anil is mentioning is we are getting up with Omkar. Karagre
yes,
Vasati Lakshmi is saying getting up with a Omkar in a different form.
and the
The
beauty,
realization of a Omkar, practical
yes,
realization of Omkar is
correct.
very nicely
And
explained. Very nicely explained.
and the beauty is our ancients, the rishis were so merciful. In small poems, immense knowledge is kept. And we just have to sit and ruminate, and we'll see. Oh my God, there's so much in this, right? So that's
Sai
the
sir,
Yeah, no, only just I think we are nearing the time. The
no,
chanting of this Omkaram, as we are discussing in the beginning and the end, we start our bhajans, we start our everything, any activity in Sai fold starts with Omkar chanting and ends with Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. I mean, Swami has made it beautifully, just reminding ourselves. It is actually symbolically reminding ourselves physically also to tune ourselves to the sound and the acknowledges our connection with everything in the world and in the universe. reminding ourselves again and again. Swami gives us the opportunities every now and then. Because any activity which we take, we start with Brahmarpanam, Om, first we start with Omkaram, then after that Brahmarpanam. We start night prayer, we start 3 times Omkaram, then we do that. So Swami has affixed this Omkaram just to remind ourselves, not only in this one, any puja, anywhere which is performed, you do Ashtotram, Om Bhagwan Sri Satya Sai Babaya Namaha, Om Sri Sai Satya Dharma Surupaya Namaha. Om is prefixed with everything.
Every
Again,
mantra,
just
sir. Every mantra.
tuning ourselves to
And
the
in fact, sir,
sound and acknowledging that the connection which we have with the universe, with the Lord. That's what I would say. So
yeah,
that is really the
just to
Omkaram.
add to this point, sir, just to add to this point, in Balvika's book I read quite some time back, I just remembered as sir was saying this, Swami said, "What is the phone number of Bhagwan?"
Oh, yes. Yes.
And Swami gives the reply, Omkaram is
Omkar.
the phone number of Bhagwan. You say three Omkaram and you connect to Bhagwan.
Connected to Bhagwan. Yes.
This is given in Balvika's book,
Yes.
right?
Correct. Yes. I also, maybe that is the reason. Also, I think in Balvikas we also learn this poem Omkaram Bindu Samyuktam
Bindu
Nityam
Samyuktam.
Jhalanti
Nityam
Yogina
Dhyan.
Kamadam Mokshadam Cheva
One of
Omkara.
the first
That is the
stanzas
very
to
first
learn.
sloka we learn in the Balvikas. I think very nicely connected, very nice reminder. So I'm also reminded, if you go back a little to our mythology, and if we were to look back, we all heard about Jyotirlingas. So we also know the Himalayas, there's a Om mountains are there. The Omkar, every time we see in the Himalayas, and also the Omkareshwar Jyotirlinga. If you were to look at it, the topologically, as we were mentioning, that it is very embodied with everything. It was just reminded mythologically, also we have a lot of things, whether we believe it or not, at least the Omkareshwar temple is the place which topographically it is supposed to look like a Om. If you were to take an aerial view, it is supposed to
Yes,
have a
yes,
Om
yes.
shape.
Yes.
So Omkara,
Yeah.
that's, and then why did it happen? If we were to look at it, the mythology goes this way. Probably we all know, we can recall it. There was a fight between Devas and Danavas. It could be between the good and the bad. Symbolically, it could mean various things. Let's take the simple story. So as the Devas were getting defeated, they only resorted to Parameshwara. Parameshwara manifests and the Danavas are defeated. In other words, the Omkara is that's the place where it has happened. That's why it's Omkareshwara Jyotirlinga has been there. Sthapana has taken place. That's a symbolic or mythological story associated with it. But if you were to see the lot of symbolic connotation from this, if to fight between the good and the bad, if you are in tune with the divine energy, which is Omkara, the divine is going to manifest to conquer, make you conquer that, and that symbolically, it is very much with our prayers. It is very much with our land. It is very much with our breath. So it is there everywhere. And then we see the glorious Himalayas. We every time see that the Om symbol always comes up. There is Trishul and Om are very much prevalent. It is a lot of pictures of Om symbol manifesting on Himalayas. There are pictures. I do have them. Maybe we
No,
could
no, I
share
know.
it.
It's on the
So,
YouTube. Yeah,
so I think many of us have seen it, and then in the pictures we can just get to see them. So as you were mentioning that it is very much a part of our mantra, it is very much part of our every walk of life. Physically, to remind that these are reminders. So Omkareshwar temple is one thing which I got immediately reminded as you were correlating these
sure,
things.
sure.
Yes. So
There is a
just I thought.
question. There is a question come up, and one brother is asking: is there a appropriate time to chant Omkar, or can we chant Omkar any time of the day? A quick answer would help,
Um,
sir.
of course, actually, any time of the day it is allowed because we do prayers. Any time of the day is allowed, and any prayer it starts with Omkaram. So I would think that it is allowed. But then, however, Swami tells that doing the prayers in the Brahma Muhurtam time is always very, very effective. So, and that's the reason why the schedule which Swami has given to the students and also to Sai devotees is that, get up in the morning, with chanting the God's name. Then after brushing form, he says, sit for some time to converse with God. Now we have Suprabhatam and Omkar chanting 21 times, Omkar chanting and Suprabhatam, which is traditionally followed even now in our, Prashanti Mandir and in everywhere in Sai institutions. And then it's a sort of prescription which Swami has given to everyone. So to directly answer the question, that yes, it can be chanted any time of the day because it is with you, it's inside you. But then it will be more effective if it is chanted in the Brahma Muhurta time in the morning, or in the evening, the Brahma Muhurta time in the evening. It would be much more effective.
So,
Cool.
just to add to what Sir has been saying, let us come back again to simple parlance. So, let's say that we want to learn something. Let's say about we want our children to learn education. So, what is the best time that we prefer? Of course, we can teach them at home in the night. Midnight, we can wake him up and teach. If he's a very agile and a very energetic kid, he will pick it up. But for normal kids, for normal human beings, there is an activity time where we are receptive. There are energetic people who are receptive always, and that's where we would like to go. But for a general set of people, as Brother Shiv Shankar Sai was telling, Brahma Muhurta time is the right time for it to be highly receptive. Similarly, when you want to study, there is an activity time from 9 to 5, right? The activity time probably are more energetic to be receptive. There is a receptive time, and your receptive time can be converted if you are more during that receptive time. If you get the energies, that energy will motivate you for the rest of the time also when you want to come back home and read. So you will read it. As he has rightly explained, there is no time to think of God. There is really no particular time, but you should be in the receptive mood. You should be in that sync with it. So if Brahma Muhurta time, if you were to practice it, it probably that energizes you to get in sync with any time. So there is really, as Sir has nicely put it, there's really no time, but Brahma Muhurta time, you will be in a more receptive way. It is the time which probably is beneficial, as Swami has pointed it out to us. So as you were mentioning, this is a thought which flashed. I thought I should share.
Perfect.
Sai Ram.
There is another thought which has come, is that we are discussing about Ved, we are discussing about Omkar, and we understand that chanting Omkar gives you so much benefit, and Ved is an expansion of Omkar, if I may put it in a simple terms. But a question has come that what is the need to learn Ved or to learn this Omkar? Because there are millions of people on this planet who are not exposed to that, and still they have survived. They have done their life, and they are kind, good people. So the need for gyan, if I may have to put it in that term, what is the role of this? Why, for human evolution, it is required? Why Avatar gave so much of importance to Veda Poshana, to revival of this art or science of Omkar and Ved?
So
Yes,
just to
Brother Anil, I think
respond,
you
yeah,
can start, no problem.
just to respond to this, we need to understand why is it that the human life is given as is gifted to uh, each one of us, right? There's a purpose for human life, and living anyone can do. Even animal does living, and a human also does living. But the purpose for life is given only by Veda Mata. In fact, there are 5 matas for each individual, which Bhagavan tells, right? We have Deha Mata, Desha Mata, Go Mata, Bhu Mata, and Veda Mata, right?
Mata,
All
Mata is referred as a
Mata means
mother.
mother, okay? Of these 5 mothers that every individual has, the first 4 mothers only cater to the mundane life, the life related to the existence on the planet Earth. See, Deha Mata gives the body. Desha
Deha
Mata
is body,
body. Desha Mata gives you a culture. You are born in India, you have
country.
the culture of the country. You are born in India, you have the culture of the country, right? The Go Mata gives you the nourishment, which is the cow, right? All our nourishment predominantly is from milk and milk products, right? And then the Bhu Mata gives all the necessary things for existence, whether it be the minerals, the plant life, everything that is required for the existence is given by Bhumata. So all these 4 are actually giving you only things pertaining to the body and the subsistence and existence of the body. Only Veda Mata talks to each individual about the purpose of why this body is existing. Okay, you are living. What have you come to do? Why are you existing? What is the purpose? In fact, this is the reason why in every prayer we, very often Vedam ends with this prayer. We say, Go Brahmanebhya Shubhamastu Nityam. Why should go and Brahmana here is not a translation of a caste Brahmin. Why is it that our ancients constantly prayed for Brahmana, Go Brahmanebhya Shubhamastu Nityam? Only why should go and Brahmanas be Shubham and safe? The reason is
Go to
go
cow.
is cow. Brahmana here means the one who is in the pursuit of the divine. People who are in the pursuit of the divine should be existing in a society because they will ensure that the human society lives as a human society. If this purposeful existence is removed, human society will become a forest or an animal community. See, animals do not have a purpose, right? Humans need to have a purpose. And purpose is given, and the whole concept of why we are existing and what is our goal, how do we reach, every aspect of this is given only by Vedamata, which is what is Shruti. And therefore, there's no choice for a human but to learn this. There's no choice. It's not a choice, it's a necessity. I'll put it that way. It's a necessity, it's not a choice. Because if without this, there is no way we'll learn the purpose of life. Therefore, we need to know. Therefore, every individual needs to know. It is not that, as you said, others are also living fine, but if they have to move forward to understand why they are living, if these questions come to their mind, everyone has to take to the Shruti in various forms. The Shruti can be, it's not that only the way we connote Veda. The knowledge of the divine is given in all the scriptures across the globe, right? So they have to take to those scriptures to understand why they have come, what is the purpose, how do they reach back to their goal, right? So it's a necessity,
Sure.
it's not a choice.
Sai sir.
Um, yeah, I would say it's. You said so many people are living. Yes, they may not know about the Omkaram, but in every religion, as it is mentioned, they have their own ways in which they connect to the God, whether it is Amin in Islam or Amen in Christianity. They say it's a modification of Omkara itself. So
In fact,
every
same
religion
letters, sir.
has
Sir, just to add, the same letter. Sorry, you can continue. A, mean, a, uma, ama are coming there also. If you see,
there also.
amin or amin, right?
So it is just question of each one, each religion gives their own ways in which they connect to the Lord. So we as Hindus or we as Sai devotees, Swami gives
Sanatani.
this is also one of the ways. But every religion in its own way teaches the real religion. I mean, one has to dig in deep into the literature and then find out there will always be parallel between one religion and another religion. We are familiar with our religion, so we are able to connect this one and then give you these examples. So even though so many people may not chant Omkaram and then reach the Lord, but there are other ways which through their own religion they have also way to find and reach the Lord.
So,
Yes,
just to
brother
add
Ratish.
to what our brothers have been mentioning, why chant Omkar, why give importance to Vedas, I will again like to come back to the normal parlance. I would like to look at, so if I am a part of this society, so why do I will question myself, why do I need to go to school? So why do we go to the school? Why did my parents make sure that I go to the school, get proper education, and then grow up? So they know that this is the process by which I will be able to have a secured, happy life in a materialistic world. But they got this by seeing, experiencing, and practicing it. So if we were to ask why chant Omkar or why at all Vedas, we need to know first of all what is it, then meditate on it, then practice it, then we will know the effect of it, Just as we want to become healthy, we know that we just by looking at some exercises, reading about exercises, we won't become healthy. And knowing the knowledge and feeling the exercises, we won't become healthy. Know it, feel it, and also do it. And then the effect of it is felt by you. So, if we were to ask the question, why chant Omkar? Why know about Vedas? First of all, know what it is. To in your limited way, you try to get an understanding of it, meditate on it, and then practice it. Then we get an answer for ourselves. Just as we are able to secure by go through the education, we make sure that our children go through and we have studied and so on and so forth. We know its benefit. In a very, take for instance any small thing that we know that we do and live in the world. It is knowing, meditating, and doing. Some things we do it unconsciously. Most of the things we do it unconsciously. If we were to think back, yes, we agree to that. But when it comes to Omkar and Vedas, probably we have the chakra is blocked, as Dr. Anil was explaining. Probably we have to remove the block and let it flow naturally. So know it, meditate on it, question it, practice it, experience it, then you talk about it. Then we get an answer ourselves. So I would say that if we were to have a question, why we are happy without doing this yoga and meditation and Omkar and Veda learning and all that, we are happy because we are already in sync with the Veda in a different form. Our life is verily filled with Vedic messages. It is verily Veda, which we don't call that as Veda because because we are living a particular pattern of life. We are having some good qualities to be followed, and these are all definitely the part of the messages which our sages and saints have perceived and then passed on, and our generations and generations of people have followed it, and it has become a part and parcel of it. We do not know from where all these things came. We need to, if we were to meditate on this, whatever happiness we are saying without reading Vedas are responsible for it. Whatever happiness we are having, this good practices which we do not want to call as Vedas, but that is how Vedas do not take any proprietary rights. You are happy because this is a Vedic injection, somebody, your ancestors have followed, and today you are reaping the benefit. We have forgotten the origin of it. If we were to see the norm in the societies, if we were to look at various things in the wherever it is going in the right direction, we see that the inspiration, the source came from the knowledge and meditation and the following of the Vedic injunctions in different things. So what is Veda? So now question what is Vedas and go back and then inquire. If you were to look, whatever you are doing, it is recorded in some form or other in the Vedas. Fortunately, unfortunately, we have very limited, only 4 Vedas or 5 is reserved for us, but enormous amount of knowledge is there which we will be able to perceive. So if we want to get an answer, if any of us want to get an answer for ourselves, why chant Omkar? Why at all talk about Vedas? I'm happy. Firstly, question, where is your happiness coming from? What? Then you will be able to correlate various things and what is all this harmony which has come into me. It harmony has coming to you unknowingly by your association with your good nature of the parents and the friends and the upbringing. These are all the gifts of our Vedas. These are all the gifts of our culture. If you were to look back, even once you know this is the source, we have enormous amount of energy, then you'll go dig more and more into it because you'll become one with it and you'll be able to give the treasure to others. So I would say that Gnatum, Drastum, Prevestum. So that would probably be one way of understanding, which is the message Bhagwan has always emphasized and told us. Know it, meditate upon it, and do it. If you have a question, don't shy. Question it thoroughly. Don't stop with that and shy away from it. Why do I need it? Then you meditate on that. Get the answer for yourself, experience and do it. I think we will get an answer. Once we get the answer by our experience, there's nothing like it. That's what Swami says, talk from inside, do from inside. So that because it has become a part and parcel of you. So this is probably one way of, one of the several ways of answering, which probably Swami has inspired me to tell you.
No problem. Wonderful, wonderful. I have another question. I think that we can address. There's a correlation between Omkar and Panch Tattvas. Because we keep mentioning about the ether, like Brother Anil mentioned, Om gave the ether, what we say Akasha. And the relationship of Omkar, is Omkar only limited to that, or it goes through the 5 elements and from the subtle to the gross? If we can run through that quickly, that will be helpful. Yes, Brother Anil.
Okay. See, Like we discussed, the attribute for Akasha, which we call as ether, is Shabda, which is what is Omkar, right? And as we keep adding attributes, the Shabda gets converted, the ether gets converted into the other
Tell the
forms
five
of
elements. Tell the five
Panchabhut,
elements.
five
Tell the
elements.
five
So
elements and then yes.
Akashat Vayuhu. Vayu has the attribute of Shabda and Sparsha. Actually, we can
Vayu
quickly
is
go
air. Vayu is
air.
air. Yeah.
Yeah, we can quickly go into little bit of science here. It's not very difficult. Akasha is vibrating energy, suppose we say, right? The Vayu has additional attribute along with Shabda, this Sparsha. Sparsha here means touch.
Touch.
Touch means pressure per unit volume. Pressure is force per unit area, right? When can we have force? Only when there is mass created, right? So conversion of this vibrating energy into packets of mass, quanta of mass, is conversion of Akasha into Vayu. That is why we are feeling
Okay.
Sparsha, right?
Okay.
And
I like
from
that.
there, the next attribute that is added is Shabda Sparsha Rupa. So Akashat Vayuhu, Vayor Agnihi.
Agni.
Agni has a rupa, a form. You can actually see it. How can we see
Agni
something?
is fire.
Fire. Only is a flame, right? We can see light. Light can be seen only by radiation. When there's an excitation of electron and emission of electron, we see the light, right? So these vibrating packets of energy, which are quanta, hit with each other, they get excited and emit. We see a form, which is Agni, right? Then comes the Akashat Vayuhu Vayor Agni Agner Apaha. And what is the attribute that is added? Shabda Sparsha Rupa Rasa. Rasa is taste. Taste and
Apa is
smell,
water.
yeah, water. And taste and smell are called as the chemical senses, while the other three senses are called as the physical senses. Why chemical? Because taste and smell have to have a molecular interaction. Only then there's a taste. Only when a molecule hits it's predominantly the molecular interaction. So this excited atoms, packets of energy, are combining together to form molecules. Naturally, it will happen. We call that as a liquid state, and we call it as apaha, right? Rasa is added. Then comes the last of it, where it is Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, that is smell. And the Panchabhuta is Akashat, Vayuhu, Vayor, Agni, Agni, Rapa, Adhya, Prithvi. Prithvi means earth. It can also mean solid state. So when these molecules coalesce to form solid states, right, we call it as the fifth state of matter, right, or the fifth Panchabhuta. So, but all through these, we see that Shabda is constant. In fact, we don't need to go that far. We see this structure, all of us would have seen the structure of DNA. What is there between the two strands of DNA? Space. What is there between one orbit and another orbit in an atom? Space. In fact, description of atom, I'm sure all small school books, they say the amount of the solid, the electrons and protons, neutrons in the space of the atom, if we take, it is something like a football in the expanse of a football field. The actual solid matter mass in an atom is just like a football, and the rest of the atom size compared to that is like the football field. So there's empty space all around, complete empty space. So where is ether? Not there. Everywhere it is there. There's no place where there's no ether, right? And therefore Omkaram is everywhere. And this is what is Nataraja. The vibration is Nataraja. Again, we can correlate it to the dance, the constant movement that is happening, which is Nataraja, right? So it's everywhere. There is space right from, there's emptiness all across the universe. We see a form out of it, but actually it's all space. So Shabda is running through all the Panchabhutas, and ether, even in our own understanding of science, we see that ether, the space is across everything, molecular level, atomic level, subatomic level, everywhere there's more of space around and a very little of mass there, in fact.
Beautiful. Any other input, Sai sir, Ratish? Any other input you want to have?
Uh, eh, it's beautifully
Very well
mentioned by Dr. Anil. These all the five elements: the Prithvi, Apaha, then Agni, Vayu, and Akasha. As you go from gross to subtle, one attribute is removed. He has come down from top down approach. From the top to bottom, he has come down. That is from the Akasha, he has come down to the Prithvi.
Prithvi.
If you go from here to there, one attribute is removed. So you become lighter and more pervasive. So that's why in Akasha and then Omkara, which he is telling, is all pervasive, with which we started, which we
Beautiful.
actually the whole thing itself has started. It is the source of the creation itself. We have mentioned it. The radiation giving to vibration, leading to materialization or the manifestation. So it is everywhere. Panchabhutas are related and all are related.
Yes.
Omkaram is the very, very basis. The primordial basis of the existence itself is Omkar. Saira.
As a layman, when I listen to it, I feel as if chanting Omkar is like leading from the front. You are already from the goal, you are pulling the people. It's a, here is a goal, and the goal is pulling us. You have to reach to Omkar, and here we start with Omkar. And then wherever in the journey you are, you get drawn to that. I think that's the fastest way to go. Just let it latch
No,
on
you,
and
you,
then,
you said that we are going towards Omkar. That's what you said. Didn't
yeah,
you? No,
yeah.
it is even starting also is that only. Starting and ending is also same thing. It is not only the going and ending. Starting is that, ending it, and that's a
Purnamada.
Purnamidam. That's the
Purnamidam.
beauty of Indian culture itself.
Purnamada. Purnat.
Purnamadam, Purnamidam.
Fantastic, fantastic. I feel it is such a beautiful introduction to jump into uh, the discussion on Ved per se. So I would request that we'll continue this journey next week, uh, getting further into the Veda per se, as this has set the tone for it, if I may put it that way. And we look at the Ved from whatever little we have grasped from Bhagwan, and that would be our next journey. So, if you all, I'm sure you all agree, so we'll continue next week, and time is also coming to close. So, before we end, I would like to open this and feel free to share your thoughts on this session, on this topic, and anything you wish to say. So let us start. Brother Ratish, you want to start?
So, Sai Ram, and this has been a wonderful experience. It's a satsang is such a place where it just reminded of Bhajagovindam, satsangatve nisangatvam, right? So this satsang initiated with the divine inspiration through Brother Abhimanyu and Brother Phanindra. It is a wonderful. Thankful to you for initiating this satsang because satsangatve nisangatvam. I think we all know this. I don't need to say it. And it's a divine inspiration and the thoughts and various things which we have said. It is definitely sharing of divine energy. And whatever we have uttered, I don't think many have been coming out. Whatever the way Bhagwan has inspired and has reminded us, the way it has been flowing in a natural way. And I definitely acknowledge and agree with Brother Abhi that is a wonderful satsang. And I'll be it will be a blessing to be the part of this. Sai Ram for giving me the opportunity to be a part of it and help me to recollect and recall those wonderful days and so that it will remain forever with all of us. Sai Ram.
Thank you, Brother Anil.
Sairam. So it's out of Swami's immense love and mercy that he allows us to be ruminate on his glory and what he has taught us. And this session, which is a wonderful satsang initiated by Brother Abhimanyu and Brother Phanindra, is really so wonderful that, as Brother Ratish just now said, most of the thoughts, it's not that we have actually planned. It just flowed in a natural way during the process of the discussion. So it's all inspired by him. And when we express a thought, it gives greater clarity to ourselves, to each individual. Actually, we learn, like in Veda, it's always said, all satsangs and all discussions start with Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahavidyam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Means it's actually learning together. There's no taught and teacher and a taught. So this learning together is such a wonderful, fulfilling journey. There's so many perspectives of one small word. It looks like just a 2-syllable word. Now we know it's a 3-syllable word. Now we also know it's a 4-syllable word, right? Omkaram, right? So there itself we expanded, right? We first thought it to be OM, moved to AUM, and from AUM we realized that there is something else beyond AUM, right? So I think that kind of expansion and the knowledge, the understanding that we get each time we spend time in satsang and discussing and Shravanam, Mananam, and Nidhinyasam, we say, right? So that Mananam aspect of trying to recapitulate constantly, trying to explore the various facets of a simple Omkaram is so beautiful. And I think, as Shiv Shankar Sai brother said, it has to be practiced during the Brahma Muhurtam time for all of us to benefit out of it. What Bhagwan has made it like a routine for all of us. Suprabhatam starts with 21 Omkaram. But if we chant this Omkaram with all this knowledge and reminding ourselves of all these aspects of Omkaram, I think the benefit that each of us are going to get out of it will be a lot more. And we have to do that journey, like Ratish brother said, go through it, and then you will know what it is, right? So I think the take home is next time we say Omkaram with far greater understanding of what it is and how it should be chanted, I think we should go the way Bhagwan has shown us the way, the path. With
So
him
now when we
leading,
chant Omkaram, we know that we are not only purifying our environment, we are
yes,
healing ourselves
yes.
physically, mentally, emotionally, and we are also connecting with the Supreme. It is fantastic.
And like brother Shiv Shankar Sai said, it is, we are starting with it. Our journey is to it. So it is like Swami says, don't walk behind me, don't walk before me, walk with me. So Omkaram is with us, walking,
Yeah.
taking us along, right?
Wow.
So
I
Sai
love that. That's a very
Ram.
beautiful memory. Yeah. Very beautiful. Thank you,
Sai
brother.
Ram. So thank you really for this opportunity. Sai Ram.
Shiv Shankar Sai, sir. Go ahead.
No, I would not repeat all that which they mentioned. I echo completely with whatever our two brothers, Brother Ratish and then Brother Anil, have mentioned. Um, we thank Swami for giving us this opportunity actually to ruminate these beautiful thoughts. And then thank you for this, providing such a nice forum for discussion. I would only like to mention there are so many more people amongst us who are equally knowledgeable, in fact, practicing these things. So involve them, and then so much more knowledge all of us can gain. That's first thing. And another thing which I would like to mention, which also was mentioned earlier, is that whatever you have, the inspiration is very important, but Swami says only 5%. The perspiration of 95% is doing. If we have to get the benefit, we will have to practice it. As at least we have learned a little bit of it. Let us see how much we are able to practice it daily and then get the benefit of that. That should be the main motto. Practicing is very, very important. This inspiration, listening, as long as we listen, we get inspired, but then we should not stop with that one. So equal emphasis or more emphasis is to be mentioned or is to be given to the practice part of it. So let us all pray to Bhagwan to give us that sadbuddhi to practice whatever little we have learned and then derive the benefit and his blessings. Sai Ram.
Thank you so much, sir. It is really a joy and so much of learning and remembering Bhagwan. Because when you hear what Bhagwan has said and how he has guided, I don't think we can ever find such a beautiful master who has taught us such big things in such a simple way that we didn't even realize that we were learning something. And today it is only a memory and a great gratitude which overwhelms us to know what He has given and what we missed today. So thank you very much, all of you, and I thank all the audience participants who have been very actively, joining us. They have shared their thoughts, they have shared their questions, and we really appreciate. And if you have any other thoughts and questions which you feel our panel can discuss, you are welcome to write and share with us. Thank you so much, and Sai Ram to everybody. Sir, would you like one of you, because it has application doesn't allow me to mix chanting. So if you one of you can chant last Omkar, and we can close with that.
Yes.
Any one of you,
Brother Anil
one
can do
person
that.
should chant. Huh?
Brother Anil can do that.
Right.
Okay. Loud and clear. So one person, that will not vibrate then. Thank you.
Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Sai Ram.
Sai
Sai Ram to everybody.
जय बोलो भगवान श्री सत्य साई बाबा जी की जय।
Jai.